So I'm going to give you a couple of big ideas to think about and a whole bunch of practices to see if you can fit any of them into your lives. Consider this a pick and choose list. Even doing just a few of these can really help to move you forward. Let's start with big idea number one. Joy is a choice. It is a choice, and is a choice that is purposefully made. Joy is an attitude of the heart and spirit, present inside of us as an untapped reservoir of potential. It's possible to feel joy in difficult times. Joy doesn't need humor to exist, although it does feel better with it. Joy can share its space with many emotions: sadness, shame, anger. Joy undergirds our spirits. It brings to life peace and contentment. Joy requires a connection, and often the connection is with other people, but can also be with pets, creation, creativity, etc. Joy can be a consistent and even constant state. Years ago, I was in India, and I was in a temple that was carved in the inside of a mountain. And it was a magnificent, special place. Only if you've ever been to India to some of these temples can be. And it just went 1,000 steps up into this mountain with room after room after room. And this room, there would be an elephant and it was blessing people. And this room, there would be chanting. And the place was filled with incense. And I remember as I was coming down, I passed a beggar, and he was the most destitute person I'd ever seen in India. Now, if any of you have ever been to India, that's really saying something. He was filthy, matted hair, jaundiced yellow eyes, few teeth in his mouth. He was missing parts of his face, his hands and his feet because he was a leper. He wore a filthy red, tiny little loincloth and had an old carved wooden begging bowl that was sitting on his lap. And as I passed him, and I was trying not to look, but I kind of did, he caught my eyes. And with these bright eyes, these yellow bright eyes, he looked at me and in perfect English, he said to me, "Are you happy? Are you in joy?" And I paused for a second and I thought, and I looked at him and I said, yeah, actually I am. And he turned back to me with a big smile on his face and he said, "Me too." And I think about that guy. I think about him a lot, who had so much less than I did in the material world, but he has chosen a path of joy and happiness, and it is purposeful. Now, joy, I believe, can overcome almost anything and everything in this world if it's allowed, if it's chosen. With joy, there is hope. With joy, hardship offers growth and opportunity. With joy, self-esteem and self-respect are indestructible. The goal is joy, and humor, that we'll also be talking about, is a fast-track vehicle to help us get there. Now, although increasing joy shouldn't feel like work, choosing it really comes in handy. People who were told to listen to music and attempt to feel more joy had a greater boost over a 2-week period than those instructed only to relax as they listened to the same upbeat tunes. It comes down to motivation. You can transform into more of a glass half full type, but you have to believe you can, and then you consciously have to choose it. Big idea number 2. Humor is way more than just joke telling. Years ago, when I was doing workshops in humor, I'd start off in an interesting way. First, I'd ask, how many of you have a sense of humor? Usually 100% of the audience raise their hands. And how many of you get jokes? With this question, about 50% would go up. Now, how many of you can tell a joke? The number would drop to 30%. How many of you are good at remembering jokes? Maybe only 10% would raise their hands. Finally, I'd ask again, how many of you have a sense of humor? At this point, predictably, no one raised their hands, because people see a sense of humor as being only about joke telling. Humor, particularly as it relates to the outcome of joy, is neither about just telling jokes or even whether people laugh. We laugh for all kinds of reasons, because we're scared or nervous, or the boss told a joke and we had to laugh, or we're being tickled. Instead, when I use the term humor, I am intending a phrase called higher purpose humor, which is, does it bring joy and improve the quality of connection to myself and others? Let me say that again. Higher purpose humor is defined as, does it bring joy and improve the quality of the connection to myself or to others? Now, here, I'm thinking about my friend Maud, who, if she's listening, is saying to herself, yeah, I'm not buying it because I'm not funny. I don't like being the life of a party. I hate being the center of attention, and I'm not good at it. Is there hope for me? Why, yes, Maudie, and yes to anyone else feeling this way. You just have to realize that humor can take a number of different shapes, each separate, each valuable in creating joy and connection, which takes us to big idea number 3. Know your shape. One of my theories is that humor can be divided into 3 main categories: passive, active, and inventive. Passive, active, and inventive. Think of a continuum. Passive is at one end, inventive at the other, and active sits smack dab in the middle. You can fall anywhere on that line and still be funny and joyful. Now, passive people laugh heartily with others, but generally don't initiate. They are known because they encourage, playing the role of supportive audience. Oh, geez, that's funny. Oh, do that again. They create an environment of humor and joy by being warm and enthusiastic. We've all known someone who everyone said had a phenomenal sense of humor, but whose essential gift was laugh and laugh hard. This style helps maintain and encourage an environment for others to be funny. They set the mood, and their role is an essential one. In the middle of the continuum sits the active style. This style doesn't usually initiate, but if humor and joy start to occur, they will see the opening and jump right in. An active style likes to keep the moment going and will encourage continuation by joining in. Oh, that's great. Here's a good one. That reminds me of a time. And they are also the counterpunchers of the humor world. They respond when something is given to them. I love the story about Abraham Lincoln, who was once giving a speech and someone from the audience shouted out, "Lincoln, you're two-faced." He calmly looked back and said, "If I had 2 faces, do you think I'd use this one?" The final category is the inventive style. This is the one who starts the ball rolling. Inventors are usually known for their quick wit, outrageous style, and willingness to risk. They're instigators, sometimes performers. They see the moment and go after it. They are the starters of the humor process. Now, where you fall on this continuum most of the time and dabble in other areas some of the time says a lot about your approach to humor. However, it's all humor. And some of the most effective, higher purpose humorists I know mainly use the passive style. They encourage and allow humor to work for them, creating joy by supporting the humor and joy of others. I'm thinking now of my friend Laurel. I've never heard her tell a joke or story or initiate any kind of humor-filled moment. But damn, can she laugh. You want her at every gathering. Now stop for a second and think about passive, active, inventive, and which shape you mostly hang in, passive, active, or inventive, and what you could do to potentially stretch into other areas. Big idea number 4. It doesn't just happen. You have to work it. It doesn't just happen, you have to work it. I love what Barbara Fredrickson, major researcher in the field and author of Positivity, says. When you're young, other people orchestrate your enjoyment of life. Your parents keep you entertained, and in college, your friends make sure you're okay. But after that, the scaffolding of having a good day is taken away, and nobody is telling you how to provide that for yourself. The good news is that as we get older, we tend to find ordinary treats just as joy-inducing as extraordinary ones. So says a study by researchers at Dartmouth and University of Pennsylvania. The authors speculate that with age, we're more aware of how fleeting time is, so we're likely to relish everyday bright spots, especially now with COVID. How many of you have found yourself in a conversation about how you were reconfiguring your priorities and seeing the joy in smaller, more essential things like time with your kids, taking walks, being home, taking care of your health, catching up on Netflix, and that's what I mean. Almost everybody I know has had that conversation at some point. Big idea number 5. Make joy and humor your personal research project for 2021. Make joy and humor your personal research project for 2021. I have a practice where every year I undertake a personal research project. I investigate something that I want to learn about and explore. I encourage you to do the same thing and make 2021 the year of joy. Again, Barbara Fredrickson. A key to steering your own happiness is reflecting on the things that make you come alive. For you, do you know what that is? Do you really know? And when was the last time you gave serious consideration to what brings you joy? I'd like you for 2021 to put on your researcher glasses and without attachment and staying flexible, start tracking what brings joy and fun and laughter into your life. Think of the things you did as a child as a starting point and go from there. The important thing is become aware of what it looks like for you, where it shows up, what makes you laugh, and then once you know, repeat, 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 and do your best to bring it to others. So this basically has 4 simple steps to follow. Step number 1, identify it. Identify it. Start tracking every day for 30 days what brought you joy and delight that day. Maybe, if you want, even write it down. Number 2, buy for it. If you love being outdoors and walking like I do, then get perfect clothes and put your money into great shoes. If skiing does it for you, then get the swag you need. Birding, spend a bunch on the best binoculars you can afford. You get the picture. This is about self-care and motivating yourself for joy. This is not a place to skimp. You have my permission, if it's responsible, you have my permission to spend your money on items that will support your joy and practice, because this is all about mental well-being. 3, make it visible and accessible. When our kids were growing up, my wife, who is an artist and art teacher, wanted creative kids. Did we have 1 pair of scissors in the house? Nope, we had 5. 10 kinds of paints and paper? We literally had hundreds. Boxes, floor to ceiling, shelves filled with stuff. She was convinced that ease of access was the key. Even making one of our most important rooms in our new home as you enter the house, and I wanted it to be my den, was turned into the kids' art room. It was the most precious space in the entire house, the easiest, most accessible, most visible, and she turned it into the kids' art room. Floor to ceiling with supplies and a place the kids love to hang, and even adults love coming just to make stuff. And this is, by the way, this is a picture of the art room. You could see the floor to ceiling, you could see our old house. This was taken a number of years ago. You could see all the materials in the boxes. My wife is incredibly organized. And that gentleman on the left is a gentleman we hosted to our home for the afternoon, and that's Barack Obama. And when it came time for lunch, and you can see us having lunch, the three of us sat in the art room, a place he commented on for how comfortable it made him feel, and that my wife had made what was important to her and the kids the center of our physical lives. I have to say, once again, my wife was completely correct. Our two kids are some of the most creative, joyful people I know, and I still consider that room and that place sacred ground. Number 4, design it into your day. I want you to consider making humor and joy a non-negotiable part of your day. In a get stuff done world, it's hard to avoid our efficiency instinct. The answer then is to focus on enjoyable stuff along with the must-dos. Don't just fit joyful activities into your days. Try and fit your days as best as you can around joyful activities. Let me say that again. Don't just fit joyful activities into your days. Fit your days around joyful activities. Do you ever hear, for instance, devoted church attendees say, can we reschedule church because something came up? You need to have that church mentality about whatever it is that gives you joy and make that the focus of your day, the center of your day, not something that you squeeze in and is ancillary. Finally, do what you can, not just to bring it into your lives, but see if you can bring it into the lives of others. Next slides, Jeannie. I'm going to show you these wonderful slides of this work that my wife did. This slide, the next one, please. Next one, please. Great. And just hold it there. Every year, my wife, who is a community artist, has been doing these wonderful lantern parades and parades of giant puppets. But you know, parades in a small town or in a big city, you really don't want to doing them during a pandemic. And so she used her creativity, put in her joyful spirit, and then she created with some friends and a group of wonderful women, essentially an installation in our town called Home Sweet Home, which is they all made these beautiful, beautiful objects. And we created a small town in the town park filled with snow where people could come safely and walk around and experience the joy of the holidays without putting themselves at risk. Where there's a will, there's a way. Where the creative is there, we can all come up with opportunities and ideas to do things differently.